Hi, and welcome to the Founders Atlas, a podcast exploring entrepreneurship around the world through the eyes of visionary founders. I'm your host, Mayuri Reddy. Today, we're traveling to Abuja, Nigeria, the nation's capital and one of the fastest growing cities in West Africa. It has a population of 4.2 million people, and estimates show the city growing as much as 4 to 5% per year. Built in the 1980s as a planned city, Abuja sits at the heart of Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, strategically placed for equal access from all parts of the country. While oil remains a cornerstone of Nigeria's economy, Abuja is increasingly known for its growing service sector and an ecosystem for small and medium enterprises. Nigeria itself has a GDP of 186 billion USD, but high inflation can be a challenge for local business owners who are looking to build a pathway to entrepreneurship. There are about 41 million businesses in Nigeria contributing to 50% of the GDP. But of those, more than 80% of them can't access funding. And that's where Yemisi comes in. Yemisi is the founder of Trift Africa, a social enterprise that provides collateral-free loans, training, and community support to nano and micro business owners, the backbone of Nigeria's economy. These businesses, often run by women and young entrepreneurs, are critical to job creation, but historically underserved by traditional finance. In this conversation, we talk about the realities of building trust with small business owners, how microfinance can be both sustainable and impactful, and why empowering the smallest players in the economy can have outsized effects on growth. I am so excited for you to meet Yemisi and hear this conversation. Welcome. This is the Founders Atlas. Hello, welcome to the Founders Atlas. I'm so excited to have Yemisi Asidi from Trift Africa today. Yemisi, welcome. I'm super excited to hear about what you've been building and your work in Abuja, Nigeria.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayuri. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So maybe just to start off, can you tell our listeners what is Trift Africa and what is the problem that you are looking to solve?
Okay, so Trift Africa is a social enterprise that I set up to support underserved nano and micro businesses with the tools and resources they need to launch their ideas and succeed. So we have about 41 million businesses in Nigeria contributing over 50% to the GDP, but over 80% of them are not able to access funding. And most of the people who are not unable to access funding are usually at the grassroots, at the bottom of the pyramid. So what Trift Africa is trying to do is to bridge that gap. So we started off with providing collateral-free, low-interest loans to women and young people, especially at the grassroots in local areas and all of that. But then we've progressively grown to also provide compliance services and capacity building community that enables them to access other kinds of funding and also get the knowledge and resource they need to build successful businesses. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. Yeah.
Amazing. And actually, I haven't heard the term. And what would be the difference between a nano business and like a micro loan business?
Okay, so in nano business is typically a business that makes 5 million naira or less. So 5 million naira or less is about $3,000
Okay.
around that area, around the range of 3,000 to between the range of 2,500 to $3,000, depending on the exchange rates that you're using.
Okay.
So these are really nano businesses, mainly solo entrepreneurs, people just starting out, and
Okay.
people who are setting up businesses mainly for their sustenance. So they're not really thinking long term. They just want to make
Got it.
enough to eat today. Micro businesses are slightly bigger. So they'll probably make between 5 to 20 million naira in a year. So they are slightly bigger. The challenges that they have are quite different. Their approach to business and financing is different. They most likely have some form of structure and all of that.
Mhm.
So yeah, you mainly find nano businesses everywhere, really. Everywhere. And I'm sure that as we go on, I'll share a bit about some of the businesses that we've supported
Yeah.
and what that support has looked like.
So that's so interesting. I've never heard, and thank you for sharing that. I also was curious, what is the avenue for how you're able to fund these businesses? Do you build a fund similar to the way a venture capital firm would build funding, or do you do partnerships with banks? Is it through donations? Would love to understand how you've created this system to be able to fund these businesses.
Okay, that's a really good question. So we've pretty much done a bit of all of it. We started off with donations and investments from family and friends. So when I started, I'm so grateful for my family and for my friends for believing in me and in the idea. So they were able to invest, and thankfully they all got back their investments with interest. So that's great. So they were able to invest in the idea, and that really got us off the ground, testing the idea, supporting businesses. As we've grown, we've gotten a few grants. So last year we got the popular
Mm.
Tony Elumelu Foundation grant, which is very popular in the first quarter of the year. Businesses across Africa get to apply and get that funding of up to $2,000 to $5,000. The one we got was $2,000, and that really was the defining moment for us, because it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it really expanded and extended the help that we're able to support to nano and micro businesses. So last year we're able to support a lot more nano and micro, I think 700% more.
100%. Wow. Okay. Amazing. That's
And in
great.
addition to that, we found other revenue generation ways that we're able to generate money from the business, which then goes back into supporting people at the grassroots. We're currently looking into partnerships with banks, DFIs, other financial institutions, so that we can scale up even more the work that we're doing.
It sounds like you're already built up a bit of a system to be able to understand who are the folks that need the support and also how to give them that funding.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that process has been to make people aware of this? Because I imagine for folks that are maybe micro businesses or nano businesses, understanding how to access the funds from you, that might
Okay.
be a communicating to people or getting them that education must be a bit of
Yes.
a lot of your work as well.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, the key thing for us is the impacts that we're able to make in the businesses that we're supporting. So when someone approaches us for funding, we're thinking, can our funding or the way that we fund businesses really impact this person? Is this the right kind of funding that they need right now? And also, of course, what is their ability to pay back? So we have different systems and metrics that we set in place in order to measure and ensure this, right? So there are different things that we look out for. How long have they been in business for? What's their current cash flow like? What systems and structures do they currently have in place? Beyond funding, what are other ways that we can support them in their business? So those are a few things that we currently do. We
Mhm.
also recently launched what we call community-based funding, where people get money based on the community that they are in. So a lot of times when people
Okay.
build businesses at the local level, they usually have some form of community around what they're doing. And we found that supporting that community instead of an individual has been a more sustainable way of supporting the businesses and ensuring return on capital that we are providing. So that way they're able to hold themselves accountable and just really ensure that we're able to recover the funding that we're giving back to them. We also look at different metrics. So if it's a business that has a social media presence, that also counts as well towards just proving that this business actually exists and is doing what it says it would do. So one of the reasons why we started going into capacity building in a way, providing business development support, not just lending, is because we realized that there was a big gap in knowledge. So a lot of
Mm.
times it wasn't that they needed funding; it was just that they lacked very basic business knowledge that can transform their businesses. So we created a community and we started doing a lot of work around capacity building, helping the entrepreneurs understand how to really set up and structure their business, how to access new markets, how to become compliant. So even when they're not able to get funding from us, they're able to get funding from other sources. They're able to get grants. They're able to generate sustainable revenue from their businesses, which I think is the most important form of funding that the businesses that the business can get sustainable revenue. So that's how our work has evolved over the last few years.
That's amazing that you've been able to build it out in this way to also create I also love the community aspect of that. I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
heard of anybody looking at that as a metric for
Yeah.
evaluating a business from an investment scale, but that does actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I recall when the first time I ever heard about microloans when I was in, I think in high school, about how, when you provide funding for when you provide microloans to a woman versus a woman is more likely to actually take the money she earns and not only give it back to her family, but her community.
Yeah.
And it's was one of the reasons why women were always prioritized when it came to
Yeah.
microloans, because actually there was just more proof that the money kind of went back into
Yes.
the ecosystem that they were already living in, which of course then benefited everybody.
Yeah.
I'm wondering within that as well, like, so obviously you said you looked at certain things like what their revenue has been, their social media presence, things like this. These are obviously not the same types of metrics that maybe a general bank would look at, right? Like
Yeah.
a bank is not normally looking at social media presence to discern whether a founder is somebody who will be able to bring back the money that you were lending to them. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what was the process like of figuring out what those metrics were going to be, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
like thinking about like, okay, like what are we going to judge this
Measure.
founder on?
Yeah.
Because, normal financial institutions are using a completely different
Bit
system. So
different.
what was that process like for you?
Okay, so a lot of it was research into what other microfinance institutions were doing, then experience, and then just observation. So a typical financial institution would base their support of your business on things like collateral. So if you have a property to give in exchange for the funding that you're looking for, and because they typically invest in very large amounts, that collateral needs to be something that is has great monetary value. In a lot of the communities that we work in, women are not allowed to own properties in their names, which meant that they are automatically financially excluded if you want to use collateral as a means to measure. We also figured out that with loans, you absolutely have to pay back the money with interest. So we cannot
Mm,
invest in a business that is not in existence and has some steady cash flow at least. So you need to have been in existence for 3 months with a good level of cash flow. A typical financial institution will require that your business is registered, you have all your compliance. So here we call them CAC certificates, all your compliance certifications, all of that. We realized that a lot of the businesses that we set up to work with are typically not registered. Like I mentioned, a lot of them are solopreneurs, just
mm,
doing the business at that initial stage for their own sustenance. And at the point where they are looking for a loan, it's because they need to quickly improve their cash flow to perhaps meet up with demand. And so
mm,
making that a key criteria would automatically cut off a number of people that we can potentially support. So now we do support businesses with becoming compliant, registering, having the right certification, but it is not a key criteria before they are able to access funding from us. So those are how we've in a way come up with the metrics. So with social media, a lot of the businesses we support are not online. Again, because of the area where they're in, or just poor access to electricity, internet, and smartphone, all of that. So it is not a key criteria for us. But we've also had nano micro businesses who have an online presence reach out to us to get funded, to get their business funded. And so for those kind of businesses, we'll definitely look at their online presence just to confirm that this business actually exists. And I think that it may not be clearly, explicitly stated, but a lot of investors do check you out online
yeah,
as
true.
well. Employers check you out online. So I don't think it's out of scope for a traditional bank to check you out and check out your
That's
social
true.
media page here before making the decision to invest in you. Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. That's valid. I think that everybody can agree that social media is a very easy open source way to check if
Yeah.
somebody is who they say they are. I mean, of course, it's been a big part of employment as well, right?
Yeah.
People always need to make sure
Yeah.
that their social media is clean to ensure that they are putting their best foot forward when people are looking them up online. So another quick reminder to everybody, if your Facebook and all these things are public and you have things on there that you don't want people to see, probably should check that out. I kind of shift gears a little bit and get to how you got to starting Trift, right? Like what led you to the pathway of building this business. So could you maybe share a little bit about your career journey or a little bit of your origin story of what drove you to take on the mission of what you are building right now?
Okay. So I would define my work mission right now as supporting business owners to launch their ideas, get funding, scale operations, and just train their staff or improve the quality of their workforce. And because that currently defines all the things that I'm doing right now, even beyond my work at Trift. So I've always had a heart for impact and for making tangible, sustainable change beyond profits. So I studied in the UK. I studied at Aston University in the UK. And part of my study was a 1 year placement year where you get to work or study abroad. And during that 1 year, I worked with an NGO. It was in one of the underserved areas of Birmingham. So it was also affiliated with like a Sikh temple. So a lot of the people who came there were um, immigrants, people who were ex-convicts,
Oh,
people who struggled to speak. Like when you talk about the bottom of the pyramid in Britain, those were the kind of people who lived in that area and so came to the community center to access any form of support, whether it is to learn how to speak English or how to apply
yeah.
for jobs or learn computer skills or all of that. And it was really hard work, probably one of the hardest work I've ever done, but it was very fulfilling for me. It made me really happy just to see the impact that like your work can do in someone's life and how it can transform them. So I studied accounting for management, but I realized that I would probably get more fulfillment working with something that is related to impact, so around impact investment or impact financing, something along those lines. And then I think I had a short summer break once where I came back to Nigeria and I worked with a microfinance bank. It was just supposed to be like an internship, an introduction to, okay, when you graduate, you come back and you work with one of the big banks or the big four. But I really, really loved the work that the microfinance bank was doing. And I clearly saw the potential that it could have in local communities. And then I decided that, okay, I was going to own a microfinance bank at some point in my life.
Amazing.
So, so when I eventually came back in 2017, I was still very uncertain what specifically to do. I was applying for jobs. I had a number of offers, but I knew I wanted to do something around finance. But it had to be tied to impact somehow. So I noticed that my mom always gave out loans to people around her. So friends, family, they'll come and borrow 10,000 here, 30,000 naira there for their business. So I think that led me to do research where I saw that a lot of nano and micro businesses, even if they contribute tangibly to the GDP and their local communities, they are not able to access funding from traditional institutions. So the requirements are lots. They are not things, the process were cumbersome, and it just really took away from them able to invest in their business. They were also the side of like crooked money lenders who had very high interest rates, which meant that the people were not actually able to build their businesses and people were actually shutting down because of the loan terms that were not favorable to
Yeah.
them. So I
Not
decided to
set up
give
for
it,
success.
yeah, exactly. So I decided to give it a shot and I started providing like micro lending, announced it just to test what that looked like, did a lot of research, computer analysis, what the industry required. And then I realized that in addition to funding, a lot of the major gap was the knowledge. A lot of people lacked basic business knowledge. And I've
Mm.
seen how just something as small as, so there was the lack of basic business knowledge and lack of digital skills as well. because with digital skills and access to digital platforms, people are able to access a wider market, right?
Of course.
So I've seen how just teaching a business owner how to use WhatsApp for business improved their revenue by 200%, or getting them to go on Facebook or Meta Marketplace or use Instagram can completely open them up to new markets, improve their revenue. And when their revenue is improved, it means that they are able to create more jobs for their local community. And so, in addition to just giving out loans, I started doing a lot of trainings. So I'll do large trainings for 1,000 people or small group trainings for 10 people, training on business skills, digital skills, financial literacy, because it all tied into helping a business become sustainable and profitable. So when businesses have the right kind of knowledge and the right skill, that access to the impacts of the access to funding is even more accelerated. They're able to do
Yeah.
a lot more with the funding that they get. So that's how pretty much Trift Africa came to be. And then over the last few years, I've done a lot of work with accelerators, incubators, not just supporting businesses in Nigeria, but businesses across Africa. So beyond working with local grassroots businesses, working with early stage startups as well, guiding the founders to launch their ideas, to set up the right structure, helping them become investment ready and getting funding.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And how, yeah, I mean, I can only imagine that the process of building this has also been something that's been a bit of a slow and steady build up, right? Because you're also not just building this bank per se, like
Yeah.
you're also doing a lot of structural support in how they can be better business owners.
Yeah.
How do you build a team to support you with something like this, right? So what was I mean, like how did you begin? Was it just you for a while? Do you find people who
Yeah.
are worked in the finance sector? Do you find people who are entrepreneurs? Yeah, I'm curious, how do you build the right team for such a complex problem like this? And what are the skills that somebody needs to have to be working in a field like this?
Okay. That's a good question. No one has ever asked me that question. So that's a really good one. I would say that your people are as important as your mission, because if you do not have the right people, you would really struggle to grow your business the way that you'd want it to. You'd always have people sabotaging things. So I'll say that it was really hard when we first started, because one of the key things of hiring the right people is also being able to pay them well and sustainably. And because it was almost self-funded, that was really hard. And if you're doing everything by yourself, there's only so much that you can do, right?
Yeah.
So you would not be able to really grow as quickly. You would not have the right perspective that you can get. But thankfully now, as we're growing and we have sort of tweaked our business model a bit, we're able to generate some form of consistent revenue. That means that we can now bring on people to join the team, whether part-time, full-time, or on a contract basis. So as someone who was just starting, you would yes, you need key technical skills. But when you cannot afford the key technical skills, I look out typically for people who have the same shared value. So people who are passionate about making impacts and supporting businesses like I do, and then people who have integrity and are committed to excellence, and then people who are willing to learn and are happy to take feedback as well. So because there is a lot of things that change very quickly and you need to adapt or respond as quickly as possible, it is important that you have people who are committed to the vision. So when we have interviews, I'm mainly looking out for, okay, what is this person's value? What have they done in the past that speaks to their value system? Are they able to commit to the role in terms of being able to learn what it takes to succeed at it. A lot of times you don't really need a superstar team. You just need a team that is aligned with your values, with your mission. And there's almost nothing that anybody cannot learn if they apply themselves to it. So if you find people who are willing to learn, who are great at taking feedback, then that's good as well. I think, yeah, off the top of my head, I'm still learning. I think one of my biggest goals this quarter is to improve my people management and leadership skills, especially as the business is growing and we have more people joining us. So I just realized, okay, I need to do better in terms of, okay, how to communicate, how to delegate. Yeah, so I am learning that as well, but we've come a really long way. And yeah, I'm very proud of the team that we work with and the work that we're doing.
I mean, it sounds like you're taking an approach that I love, which is that everybody has the potential if you just give them an opportunity to give them some time and you give them some space to grow.
Yeah.
I think that that is also quite an alignment with what you're building, right? You're obviously giving a lot of people an opportunity to grow a business, and you're also teaching them all these skills. So it would be almost counterintuitive if you didn't also approach the way that you're hiring people and bringing them onto the team with that same, belief or openness to, giving people an opportunity that might not otherwise
Yeah.
have seen one. And you did mention just now about, your approach to trying to become a better leader. Did you always see yourself as somebody who was going to be an entrepreneur? Was this a pathway that you foresaw for yourself?
Yeah, actually, I've always daydreamed about owning businesses. So my mom used to own multiple businesses around fashion. There was never a time my mom did not have a business that she was doing, even if she
She
was
was
the
hustling.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even if she was the only, like the only staff on her in her business, so I always saw myself doing that. But I wanted to do it on a bigger scale. So I've always seen myself as an entrepreneur, owning businesses. I've always sort of done some form of entrepreneurship as well. As soon as I could, I started my first business when I was 15. I was in the UK and I would buy things on sale. So 26th of December is like the best time to shop in the UK because everything is on sale. So I'll buy loads of things on sale and then I would ship them to Nigeria and my mom would help me sell them and send me back the money. And then I also started doing Avon at the point.
Oh, nice.
Just yeah, because
Avon. Wow. Avon is not a word I've heard in so long. Wow. My mom used to
I
also
don't know
my
if they
mom used to
still
also
yeah.
yeah, my mom used to always sell Avon, or like she'd always buy the things to start selling Avon, and
Yes.
then when not actually sell them, maybe a little. Avon's kind of a little bit of a pyramid scheme, maybe, but
Yeah, yeah,
nevertheless,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
nevertheless, I know what
like
you're talking about.
yeah. So I would buy like their deodorant. It was like 99p then. If you sell it, and then the exchange rate was 250 naira to a pound. So you could buy that at 250 naira and maybe sell it for 1,000 naira in Nigeria. Because I mean, it's imported, it's foreign. People when you use it, and I'll sell it to big supermarkets. And I was able to use that money to pay for part of my schooling, really. So things like accommodation, my feeding, I could cover those, right? So yeah, I'd always done some form of business.
Okay, all right. So now that you have been a business owner for a while, what are some of the biggest surprises that you've had, or I guess maybe a better way to say it is, are there any things that you expected that did not match reality? And maybe in the good and the bad, if you want to share.
Hmm. I think that doing business like Avon, where you're just buying and selling a product, is completely different from trying to build a business that does not revolve around you anymore. I think one of my biggest measure of success and my biggest goals right now is to create jobs. So unemployment is a really big problem in Nigeria. And for me, supporting businesses to grow is one way that we can enable the creation of decent jobs in the country. So I understand that I wanted to do work for impact and work at the grassroots level, but I feel like I did not fully plan for how deeply I would connect with the people that I get to engage with daily, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the women, the young people that we get to support at the grassroots level. So we just finished a project in Abeokuta. It was for 5 weeks, where to train local entrepreneurs. And then when we finished that one, when we got selected again to do another 1 week training for fashion entrepreneurs. So Abeokuta is one of the historical cities in Nigeria, and it is known for a lot of history and fashion. So they have this unique fabric that they make, which is very popular globally now. It's called the Adire fabric. So a lot of the local women know how to make this, but they've not been able to create something long-term sustainable
Mm.
from it. So when we were called to do the trainings and all of that, what I wanted to do was to inspire them and show them what was possible beyond just day to day making money to eat for the day.
Yeah.
And it was just really interesting to see what the challenges were beyond funding, beyond a lack of business knowledge. So to see like maybe the 19-year-old single mom who had to come to class with her toddler and had to juggle listening with taking care of the toddler, or the mom whose child was sick throughout the training, but she would still try and show up and stay at the back with her baby. And you realize that these are the things that influences building successful businesses from the grassroots. It is, you can give this person all the business knowledge that she needs, and you can give her all the funding that she needs. But there are these other day-to-day barriers, in a way, almost cultural barriers that will
Yeah.
always be there, will be in her way. So even guiding her on how to navigate that and helping her feel seen and supported throughout that process, it's a key part of the work that I almost never prepared for, but
Yeah.
it's, yeah, one of the things that we've that has touched me deeply, and we're having
Yeah.
to learn to navigate as well.
Wow. Yeah. I think there's so many things to unpack there, but I think the one thing that really stood out from what you just said is just understanding the cultural nuances and also the barriers that a lot of the people that you're supporting are going through that are very real problems that
Yeah,
are not problems that are easy to navigate, let alone trying to build something upon it. But of
yeah,
course, so many of these folks are doing so with a lot of resilience and are
yeah.
doing so out of necessity, right? Like there is
Mhm.
no other way besides through. And I do want to touch a little bit about that because I think the first time I learned about like Nigerian culture around like this spirit of entrepreneurship was through a Anthony Bourdain like video for Parts Unknown. And it was so fascinating to me to see, this spirit that a lot of folks have around being entrepreneurial that seems to be something that's quite strong within Nigerian culture. And I was wondering for you what your if and what you feel maybe your background has done or if it has influenced the way that you approach your work. So you also spent a lot of time in the UK, so I think maybe you have a little bit of a way to compare it. So for you, do you think that your culture or background has influenced the way that you view business or the way you view community? And if so, what do you believe that influence has been?
Okay, so that's a really great question. I think that if there is anything that a Nigerian has is adaptability and resilience, and that's something that two key skills that I think I am pretty good at, right? And just being able to spot opportunities everywhere with everything. So yeah, that has definitely influenced perhaps my willingness to go into entrepreneurship and even just staying at it despite how difficult it is, and just continue showing up and applying yourself at it consistently. I think it's always also just the knowledge that, oh, there is nobody coming to save you. So if you don't do
Mm.
the work, you're not going to get the results. There is no welfare to fall back to and all of that. I think that perhaps spending some time in the UK has maybe shaped how I approach that or balance out the resilience and adaptability that being from a Nigeria culture gives you. So there is this mindset of just really wanting to give back or to volunteer or serve that I think you get a lot when you work in the UK. So volunteerism is a very big part of the culture there, especially for a young person, and just opportunities to serve, to genuinely learn as well. And so being able to pair that together with living in Nigeria has meant that you quickly learn to balance being street smart with being empathetic, right?
Mm.
And selfless as well, but not in a way that costs you more than you're giving.
So when you look at the way that your culture has impacted, do you think that there's any difference in the way that you're approaching microfinance to other companies in other parts of the world? Or do you feel like that's pretty similar?
I want to hope so. Uh, so I try to be like, for us, yes, we are trying to build a profitable and sustainable business. But the major thing that we consider is how does our work enable businesses to grow? So there are times when we have declined providing a loan or giving funding because we realize that the the fund that we're providing is not the right kind of fund that this business needs. So the loan, if we can give this person a loan and we can possibly make money from it off the interest that we get. But this person does not need a loan to succeed right now. They need
Mm.
other kinds of
Support.
structured support or community that we can plug them into. And so we try to do that. So for us, it is how can we see the businesses grow? So one of the things that we've even tried to do is to target communities with where there are big loan shark, influence of loan
Mm.
sharks, and then try to match our offer so that these businesses are able to access sustainable financing in a way that does not cost them their business or even in some cases their lives. So that's how we are approaching microfinancing differently.
Okay. That's incredible. I mean, it's a very smart way of doing it, of finding areas where they might be most susceptible to
Yeah, loan
fraud,
sharks. And
or I
so,
guess
yeah,
being, yeah, loan sharks. That's a very, very strategic way of supporting them.
yeah.
I didn't ask this before, but how many folks are you currently supporting with Trift? And
Okay.
what are the typical interest rates? So what is the interest rate charged to the folks that are getting the loan? And then what is I guess, for the folks that are investing in Trift, what are the returns on their investments?
At the moment, we try to support because of the funding that we have access to and the way that we're able to structure our support. We try to not do more than 100 in a month, although it depends on the number of requests that we get, just so that we're able to also manage the cash flow that we have and just ensure that we're able to monitor returns.
Okay, so sorry, just wanted to clarify. So you only work with 100 businesses at a time?
Yes, at the
Okay.
moment, we hope to scale this up during the second part of the year where we have
Okay.
access to perhaps more structured funding, better infrastructure, more people on the team, and all of that. But right now, we cap at around 100 businesses in a month. The interest rates that we give usually depend on a lot of different factors, the inflation rates, the NPR rates, so it's not fixed and it really depends on the risk level of the businesses. But one thing we really try to do is to keep it at single digits. Most microfinance institutions right now do up to 10%, 12% in the month, But because of the kind of businesses that we're supporting, we try to keep it at a single digits rate. The return to the investors, again, also depends on that. So we're looking at the economic forecasts, the structure of the financing that we're receiving, how many people it can help us. So it's usually not set in stone, but this is key for us again that however we are providing this financing, it's supporting businesses to be sustainable, and we try to keep it as single digit interest rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I am an investor or I am curious about entering the market in Nigeria, so I'm looking to invest in maybe not just SMEs, but even larger scale companies, what's some piece of advice that you would give to me about how to enter the market, how to access these communities, and how to be successful in investment within the country?
Okay, so we have a growing youth population, which is a great thing. We're one of the largest economy in Africa, which is also a great thing. So, and there are lots of communities as well. If there is anything I really like about the Nigerian ecosystem, is that people are always finding ways to come together, partner, support each other, collaborate. So you would not run out of communities to work with. There are loads of hubs, loads of associations, or just even informal groups of founders coming together to share knowledge, support each other, motivate each other, share resources, navigate roadblocks and other that. So it would help to perhaps have authentic conversations like this with them to understand what the pain points actually are, not assuming or coming in with a savior mindset in a way, but
Yeah.
really helping to listen to conversations like this. You'll find loads of entrepreneurs from Nigeria talking about their experience on different YouTube channels, different podcasts like this. So that can kind of give you a better insight into the terrain, into what the
Hmm.
needs are, what the challenges are, what the successes are, what the opportunities are as well. And then perhaps that can further guide you on how to structure your support. There are also loads of angel investors or venture groups that you can support businesses through. Like I just mentioned, the program that we did in Abeokuta, that was sponsored by a number of international partners and local partners as well. So that's way that even governments of other countries are trying to invest in Nigeria, giving back to
Yeah.
local communities through existing local businesses.
And is there any, I guess I'll say this way, like, is there any resistance in Nigeria to take money from elsewhere? Or I guess maybe a better way to put it, if I am interested in working with Nigerians or helping them build a business, does it require is it required to actually have a footprint or presence in the country? Or is it something where being able to show face or like being present is enough, but maybe not, doesn't necessarily need to have an office there? I'll give you an example. I was recently in Cape Town, and there were a lot of people who were talking about the importance of looking for ways to invest more outside of Europe, right? So the focus of a lot of the folks that were there were trying to think about more effective ways to invest on the entire African continent. And for some folks, they were saying for them, it was really important to actually be present in Cape Town. Like that was a really important way for them to really build that rapport. Do you think it's the same for Nigeria, or do you think that there is a little bit more flexibility in how folks can, I
Hmm.
guess, still enter the market?
I think there's a lot of flexibility, especially
Okay.
because there are loads of people that you can partner with locally if you absolutely need to have a local presence. Like
Okay.
I've mentioned that there are loads of hubs, there are loads of venture groups, angel investors, conglomerates, all of that that you can work with. So you're able to have influence and impact in the country without being physically present
Yeah.
in the country as well. Yeah. So I think
Okay.
even if it comes to it that it is important to have like some presence, there are loads of people who can work with you to ensure that that's possible without you being physically present here or even having an office here.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, it also
Yeah.
allows for a lot more opportunities for people to
Yeah.
explore what's there if they don't have to have that, maybe, again, that physical
Yeah.
presence. We're actually getting to the last couple of questions. You were already mentioning it a bit about the hubs that exist and, of course, different ecosystems. But as you've been building this business, I'm curious for you, what has been your support system and how have you leaned on them for support throughout the building of Trift as you expand? So you mentioned a bit about your friends and family that allowed that, provided the initial funding for building out the business, but would love to understand if there's also beyond that and, the startup ecosystem around you, how that's maybe played a role in it as well.
Yeah. So definitely community is something that is an important part of building a business, especially as a woman. I don't think that you can. I was even just thinking about it this morning. It takes a village to do anything successful or anything good, including
Yeah.
building a business. So for me, my village has included the accelerator programs that I've gone on to be a part of, which is in a way opened my eyes to better business models, other women in the ecosystem as well, the different communities that I'm a part of where you can just learn from and lean on when you're struggling or you need advice. There's almost always someone who has gone through what you've gone through and they can provide that insight, that perspective that is always necessary. I really also appreciate the access to knowledge right now. There are so many opportunities to learn, to cover knowledge gaps, to gain new insights into the market, into ways to do things, to accomplish things. That's been really great. And then obviously family and friends for that personal support, for the correction, and even just keeping you grounded on your values and reminding you of what matters to you even beyond the work that you do. So yeah, it's taking a whole village and I have an amazing um ecosystem around me.
It's amazing. And for my last question, one that I always like to ask folks, and I always get an answer that is different, which is what I love. What does success look like to you? So if you are looking at not just the way that you're building your business, but the way that you're living your life, will there be, a point where you're like, "Ugh, I made it? Do you already feel that? Or are there, like, what are the markers for you to know that you are feeling that you have reached a point where you can say, I am successful? Or
Yeah,
is
I'm
it even a point,
successful.
right? Is it a journey? So we'd love to hear what
Yeah,
your definition kind of
of
success is.
success looks like. I
Yeah.
think that my definition has evolved over time. So there was a time when it used to be, or when we hit this revenue targets, or when we secured this amount of funding, or when we've supported this number of businesses. So those are important, but my perspective on that has kind of shifted. So, like I mentioned, I think I kind of hinted at it earlier. Right now, my biggest goal and mission and my measure of success is the number of jobs that I am creating. So, even when we're supporting businesses, we're thinking, okay, if we support this business, how many jobs can they create in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years? When people invite me to be on boards or be part of projects, at the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, how will my work influence or enable the creation of jobs, the creation of decent jobs? So right now, that's what it is. I think success is not a destination, it's a journey. And what that looks like would change perhaps over time. Maybe I'll get to a point where I'll say, okay, this is it. But right now for me, it's the number of jobs, the level of sustainable impact that I'm able to get or create by supporting businesses, both businesses at the grassroots and businesses who are early stage founders, tech founders across Africa. Yeah.
Incredible. That's a great way to measure success. And honestly, from everything that you've shared today, it's very clear that you are doing a lot to not only impact the lives of these founders, but I have no doubt the lives of the people that they support as well, right? It's not just the founders that you're supporting the entire community around them that now has people running successful businesses, the families of those people.
Yeah.
And those all have incredible impact. And excited to see how you're able to measure that, first of all, because that'll be very, very curious to see how you measure it, but very, very, very cool to see how you've been building this. And one last thing, actually, if somebody is looking to support what you're doing at Trift, what is the best way that they can support you?
Okay, so the best way that it can support us right now is to engage with the content that we're putting out. So we try to, unlike other financial institutions, we try to not just talk about accessing funding or services, but we see social media as a way to really promote the business knowledge and close the knowledge gap, which is something that is very important to us, because I've talked about how that capacity building goes a long way to even improve the impacts of the funding that businesses are able to get. We're also always open to partnerships. So if you want to do some form of incubator or accelerator programs for businesses in Nigeria or local businesses across Africa, that's something that we're able to really support with in guiding you on designing the curriculum, designing the programs in a way that can be impactful, because this is something that we can, like, we have a lot of experience in. Obviously, funding, access to capital is a key part of growing a successful business. And the more funding, especially impact investment that we have access to, the more businesses that we're able to support. So those are some ways that people can work with us and support us.
Okay, amazing. And is the best way to reach out to you through your website, an email address?
Yeah,
I'll be sure to put everything in the show notes.
Okay, great. So website, email address, social media, we're very responsive. Whatever platforms you find us on and feels comfortable
Find us anywhere.
to you. Yeah, we'll be happy to engage with you there. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Yemisi. It was so
Thank you
incredible
so much.
chatting with you and learning about what you're building at Trift. I was able to speak to another founder from Nigeria named Sei, and I was telling him as well, Nigeria has been on like the top of my travel list for a very long time. So I definitely need to make my way there. And when I do, I will 100% pay you a visit. And yeah, for any listeners, if you're looking to learn more about microfinance and more about what Trift is doing, as Yemisi said, engaging with them on their social media platforms, learning about what they're doing, and really helping them spread the word about the knowledge they're sharing is an incredible way to support them. Yemisi, thank you so much. It was so lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning into the Founders Atlas. I hope you enjoyed the ride. To learn more about what Yemisi is building at Trift Africa, head to our show notes for information on how you can get in contact with her. And if you could like, subscribe, follow, give us a rating here on the podcast, it would mean so much. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.